Okay, so my name is Karen Lewis, and I am one of the academic advisors in the School of Engineering Advising Hub. Uh, Basically, we work as a team throughout the time that we have with you, which is only 1 year. But we're going to talk to you about how to register for your classes and give you plenty of time to ask all the questions that you potentially wanted to ask. So I'm going to turn it over to Kelly to introduce herself and get us started.
Hello, all. My name is Kelly Stutz. I'm also one of the SoE Hub advisors. We're so happy that we're able to connect tonight. I know you probably have a lot of questions, and hopefully we can help answer those during our session today. So this is our team of our office, and so Karen and myself tonight will be doing this presentation, but we also have Bulos and Kim with us in our office. So just a little overview of our presentation. We'll kind of give you an introduction, just some things about the hub. What is the hub? We'll go over some major templates, kind of your guide to your 4-year plan, so the transfer course process as well, also how to register for courses. That'll take up a good amount of time tonight, and then just some important dates and reminders. We know you're getting a lot of dates from first year experience, so I hope that this can kind of answer um, puzzle piece everything together for you over the next few weeks. So what is the SoE Hub? So SoE stands for School of Engineering. We have experienced advisors in the hub, so the 4 that I mentioned earlier, and then we will advise you in your first 2 semesters. Some majors have secondary advisors, so ECSE and the main department. We use a lot of acronyms at RPI, so if there's any questions about anything that we're talking about, please correct us. It's common language for us, but we know it's new for you. So we're here to help you in that first year. So any questions of your course registration or during your semester and then planning your 4 years, that's where we come in and really help you navigate your curriculum for each major. Where is the hub? So we are on the 3rd level of the Johnson Engineering Center, or known as the JEC, and we are through down the hallway and through what's called the Ansel Lounge. So you'll see us probably in a window there, and there's a door, and we have a lot of work study that work with us. So you'll probably see in front of our office too. So we're grateful now to have more in-person advising, and so we'll probably launch that too in the fall and really help you in those appointments. So these are all of our majors. So something to point out is that 1 in 3 students change their major at RPI, especially in the School of Engineering. So the beauty of these majors is that you'll look at these templates, and some of them have very transferable courses. So if you decide to be one major, say you start as mechanical and you want to change to nuclear, it's a pretty seamless process. So that's where Karen will kind of go in today and kind of show you these templates. But we have a lot of majors. We're really grateful to have some amazing associate deans that really support everything that the faculty are doing, but really helping you as the students declaring these majors and helping you through. So where can we find all these templates? So we have what's called PDF templates and your Excel templates. So the PDF template is probably the one we use most frequently, just it's easily accessible. And then the Excel template is your personal 4-year plan. And this is what we'll use, especially in the spring when we start doing our student advising meetings. Those are required. And then in the fall, we can kind of navigate, that first semester. So where to find all of these is on our website. And so I'm going to pause right now and kind of switch it over to Karen, and she's going to show you everything that we're looking at today.
Awesome, Kelly. Thank you. So basically, I'm going to share my screen with you in just a minute. Just pulling up our information that we need here. So let me get into that mode for you. Okay. So generally, Everybody loves Google. So I just typed in SOE Hub RPI into a Google search engine, and that is where our website can be found. But we also post the link everywhere in the chat. You get it in email. So make sure you're checking your RPI email daily because we are not allowed to email your private email anymore. This is college. You're officially an RPI student, so that's the way that you are going to converse with all of us. So if you email us, be sure to use your RPI email as well. So here we are. This is our main page. Now you're going to see a lot of information here. I just want to give you a brief overview and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty with the templates and how to find those. So we're going to bypass that button, but that's where we're coming back. These are all of our webinars. You're in this webinar right now. So after this webinar is complete, if there was something that you wanted to review and come back to, you will be able to view the recording of this particular one probably sometime tomorrow. We record all of our webinars just to be sure that everybody has the information that they need. Additionally, we offer those drop-in advising sessions. Those are when you sign up on a sheet. You can click right here. We also post the sign up sheet inside our chat. The sheet is only open if a drop-in session is happening. So you're going to rely on this schedule right here for that information. So you click, you sign up, first come, first serve. We contact you via WebEx and say, hey, it's your turn, meet me here, and give you a link. So that's kind of how all that works. And we encourage you to do that, especially if you're creating schedules and you run into any questions. You're more than welcome to put them in our normal WebEx chat. But if it's more specific or personal, that's a really good way to get in touch and meet with us one-on-one. Now we're going to click on the Welcome 2027 information here. We have a couple of things that we have big dates on. Yesterday, everybody should have received a time ticket. Now, we don't usually email them to you. You would log into SIS, which is our student information system, to find your time ticket. And I'll show you how to do that in a little while, but that's something that we're going to cover. Now, here is some critical information for you regarding your first year experience. Parents, there's even a button for you if you wanted to read more information about your student's process through the summer. And the big thing here is what we're going to focus on, how to create your fall schedule. So this is going to be the buttons that we use tonight. And we're also going to be using those, or you're going to be using them more specifically as you're creating your schedule and getting ready to register. So the big ones that Kelly highlighted just earlier are your major specific templates. When you click on that, it pretty much brings up every single major here. Now, if you're a mechanical, you're going to have to know your acronym. So if you don't know your acronym, you could throw it in the chat and we can always help you. But generally, this is computer and systems, this is materials, this is nuclear, mechanical, this is IME, industrial management. That's probably the most confusing one. Electrical, environmental, biomed, chemical engineering. Biomed, we have a biomed pre-med and a regular biomed, civil and aeronautical. So you pick your choice, you download your template, and it looks something like this. And basically this is our tool. You are going to focus in fall. As a chemical engineer, you're going to focus on these courses. If you're coming to school with credits, you might move things around a little bit, and we'll talk about that again. But primarily, most students who are coming to RPI without any AP, IB, dual enrollment credits would register for the courses in the first box of their template. So one thing I wanted to bring up here that is not written anywhere, and it's just a tip that you'll have to know. If your template outlines that you're taking physics in the fall semester, you will also need to register for a mentoring section. And Kelly will write down the course number in the chat for you just so you can see what it is, but it's Physics 1960. So in addition to Physics 1100, you will have to put that 0 credit course into your schedule while you're registering for your classes, because it's considered a co-requisite, which means you have to take both of them at the same time. They don't put that on the template. It's not written anywhere, but when you go to register, they're going to say you're missing a co-req, That's what the course is. So that's one thing I just wanted to note, but that's something that we could always help you with while you register for your classes. We are online and we are in the chat helping students navigate that process. So anyway, we're going to go back to the website. The other thing that we're going to focus on is another part of the registration process. So I'm going to go back to our presentation and then we are going to continue on. So I'm going to put this in presentation mode and we'll chat a little bit about the next part of what I'm going to talk about here. This is called Quacks. This link is on the buttons on your website, okay? And basically, Quacks is a tool that allows you to create a schedule that doesn't have conflicting courses. So I'm going to hop over to our website again, and we're going to actually do Quacks. So what we would do here is we click on the link and we're going to use our template, which we can look again for reference for our course prefixes and our course numbers in order to create a schedule. So doing that, we go to Quacks and say we were looking for chemistry, which was Chem 1110 for the specific chemical and biological processes. So this is the course that they would need. Now there's 3 sections. If you hit toggle all sections and hit schedule up in the right hand side, it's going to load all 3 sections of chemistry advanced lab. And if you arrow, you're going to see that they meet at different times. So as you're building your schedule, you're going to look for your prerequisite courses and you're going to toggle the sections. And you can actually customize these too. Like say, for example, you don't want to take an A at AM. And I get it. It might not be possible in your first year, but you can take these out and unhighlight them. So then your 8 AMs aren't going to show up on your schedule. So you could either choose all of them or only choose a few to kind of create your schedule. And as you're building your schedule, you're going to see that things are going to start moving around and taking shape. So going back to our presentation, let me close some of these so I can access that. You're going to end up with something that kind of looks like this. You're going to register for 4 or 5 classes depending on what your major template specifies. Some majors require you to pick up a 1-credit class in your first semester as well. Chemical engineering didn't have that, so maybe you wouldn't do it at that time. But you're going to create your schedule, and once you have that, I'm going to actually go back. At the bottom of the Quack screen, there's these numbers called CRNs. Those are your course registration numbers. They're also highlighted in each of the boxes in Quacks. Every course has their own number. And that's really important for you to know because as you're creating your schedule and registering for your classes, you are actually going to use those CRNs to physically register. So where we register is in SIS. If you haven't accessed SIS yet, please do so because you want to really become familiar with this website. Now, the student menu is the primary area where you're going to do most of your registering. You go to student menu when you log in, and there's a couple of things that you're going to do. Now, I mentioned earlier that the time tickets have been loaded. So where you can find your time ticket is actually on your SIS student menu. So if you look here, we have register, add, drop, which is where you're going to register for your classes. But to check for your time ticket, the dot above it, the bullet above, check registration status, if you click on that and you select fall of 2023, it's going to say you start on July 25th at a particular time and you end on August 1st. Now, whatever time on the 25th it says you start, that is your time ticket. Everybody registers on the 25th, but everybody registers at different times. You might have an 8 a.m. time ticket. You might have a 12 noon time ticket. Wherever it is that you fall, you want to prioritize registering when your particular window opens. Please note time tickets are Eastern Standard Time. So if you're on the West Coast or in a different area, you want to factor in that it is East Coast time. Okay, So now we're going to go back to our registering. If we have our schedules created and we have our CRNs and our time ticket window is open, we have two things we have to do ahead of time. First, you're also going to go right to the bullet below Register Add Drop, and you're going to click on Financial Responsibility Agreement. You can actually do that right now. In fact, I encourage you to do it right now. Get it done with, because you don't want to go to register and then suddenly say you can't register because you have a hold on your account. The financial hold responsibility needs to be cleared every semester until you graduate. The details are listed right in this box here, but basically the long and short of the agreement is you're coming to school here, we expect you to pay your bill. Click the button, say yes, and then you can register. So clear that hold, and then we're going to go to the register add drop screen. Now, we talked about quacks and creating our schedule. There's another way you can also look at courses, and this is actually the encouraged way. Quacks is a helpful tool when you're creating your schedule, but it's not real time. So it might tell you that a course has seats in it, but they might be full. The only way to determine real time what the courses and their seats availability are is to looking into SIS in the student class search option. So basically, I can go through this within more detail, but when you go to student menu, you click on class search in the main menu, and then this brings up this screen here. You pick a topic. So if you're looking for chemistry, you can click chemistry. If you're looking for math, you can click math, and then you hit section search, and all of the courses will appear. So basically what you want to look at is right here. The cap, actual, and remaining. These all have zeros because we didn't have seats loaded, but this should populate as numbers. And the third column is the most important one because you want to make sure that there's physical seats in the section that you're registering for. So if there's a zero where it says remaining, uh-oh, we're stuck. It's full. So that's going to be relying on you to look for other sections that physically have seats. You can also discover if a course is communication intensive. You're going to hear that word buzzing around a lot, that phrase. Over in the right-hand side, SIS also shows you where your classes will be held, who the instructor is, and also your times and your meeting dates. Please note where it says MR, it's Monday and Thursday. That screws every student up. We don't have room to make it TH, so they just assign Thursday as R. So when you're looking at those, you're like, okay, Wednesday is W, that makes sense. F is Friday, R is Thursday, so T is Tuesday. So keep that in mind when you're doing your course planning. All right, now there's also another piece, and I know we're throwing a lot of information at you, especially Haas courses. In the event that you go to register for a Haas class, which is Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences, every student, with the exception of pre-med biomed, will be registering for a humanities class for the fall, even if you bring credit in, which we'll talk about. But you are going to register for a Haas class, primarily an inquiry class, which is this INQR prefix. Now, you might get a message when you go to register for it that it's restricted to certain majors. While you're building your schedule, you can actually look that information up to make sure that the class that you picked isn't restricted. So what you can do is if you go into SIS, you click on the CRN, and then it brings you to this screen where you click on the title of the course. And then it brings you to another screen. It'll tell you if there's any restrictions at the bottom of that screen. So it's helpful, and I could show you the process if you choose, but it's helpful for you to navigate all that information ahead of time just to be sure that your course isn't restricted. A majority of your Haas inquiry courses should not be restricted, but there are some sections that are restricted to certain majors because they're required for their major. So we want to make sure those students get the priority. All right. So now that we've gotten through kind of some of the weeds of registering, what do we do with our CRNs from that Quacks menu? When you actually have your registration window open, it's going to look like this. It's a little light, but you're going to see boxes across the bottom of the screen. Each box, you are going to put a CRN. So a CRN generally is going to start with the number 5 or 6, and they're at the bottom of the Quacks menu. You just type one CRN in each box, and then you hit Submit Changes. Now, fingers crossed, you get all the classes that you want on the first try, and it'll say registered via web. However, if you get a different message, like a time conflict or course is full, anything that has that kind of messaging, it means that that course wasn't successfully registered, and we'd have to go back in order to maybe find another course, find another section. You can build off of your existing schedule. You don't have to drop everything that you already successfully registered for and go back. You can add to it. If a course that you pick conflicts with your existing schedule, you will get that message of time conflict. So it doesn't allow you to register for any conflicting classes. So that's a good thing. So a lot of times registration happens kind of quickly. You want to get it done. You want to make sure you get your courses. So it's really helpful for you might to maybe have backup courses. So if your first section of calculus is full, you could plug in a different one and another one and another one until you find one that has seats. So that's kind of the tips and trade of the trade here. Now, you can also, when you're done, view your schedule by clicking on the View Weekly Schedule Daytime Grid on the SIS student menu. So that's another way to view your schedule to make sure that everything looks the way that you expect it to. Hopefully it'll look just like the Quack schedule that you created. All right, so now we're going to talk about transfer credits. Transfer credits might not impact everybody, but if they do, it might change the sequencing of the courses that you're going to register for. Now, we did a transfer webinar on Monday, and we recorded it, and you can find that recording on our SOE Hub website that I went through. So if you do have questions about transfer credit, we're not going to get too deep into it tonight, but you can view that video and let us know if you have additional questions. But overall, AP scores, IB scores, all need to be sent to RPI. You definitely want to make sure you do that sooner than later, because the sooner we have those scores, the faster we'll get them loaded on your transcript, and then you don't run into any issues. So if your Calc score AP is on there, then you could easily jump right into Calc 2. If registration opens and your scores aren't here yet, you're going to have to request an override into Calc 2 because we don't have your scores. And that might take a little longer, sections fill up. So make this a priority if you do have transfer credits. Obviously, we have the details of what the scores require here, and it's also on the registrar's website as well. We also deal a lot with dual enrollment credits. The big thing about dual enrollment is you need to complete the incoming freshman transfer form, which is on the registrar's website. Details are on our website as well. And you need to get a transcript from the college that you took that class at or classes. That process also takes a little bit longer because you have to submit that along with a course description to the registrar's office because they have to review dual enrollment to make sure it will transfer. So again, if you don't have your dual enrollment credits here and it's for like calculus or physics or something like that, that's a prerequisite for another subsequent course, you're going to need an override. So that's something that you're going to want to communicate with us sooner than later. And the same thing applies to summer classes. If anybody's taking classes this summer, you need to fill out the appropriate paperwork, get the transcript sent to RPI. All
Karen, I
right.
have a quick question
Yeah.
before on transfer credit. How do students find out if their transfer credit has been applied?
Good question, and thank you for bringing that up. So basically, if you think you sent your scores, particularly AP or IB, because I know that the registrar just processed a ton of those, go into student menu on SIS. You're going to notice that as a reoccurring theme. Find a button that says View Transcript. It's on that main menu. If you view your transcript, all of your transfer credits should populate there if they've been processed. Now, if they're not there, there's two possibilities. One, you didn't send the scores when you thought you did. Two, they just haven't been processed yet. And you can email the registrar to say, hey, I know I sent these 3 weeks ago. Here's my RIN and my full name. Always include both. And say, can you look into this for me? And Mary, who processes all the transfer credits for the entire institute, will get back to you and let you know what the status of your credits are. Now, another reason why we push you so hard to get those into us as soon as possible is because the registrar wants all of these in as soon as possible. But if you don't get them in before the end of your freshman year, which believe me, it's happened, they will not accept them anymore. So it does have an expiration date. You want to make sure that you get them ASAP. Okay? All right. So now we have a couple of dates that are coming up. Um, we're obviously in the consultation period right now. And the biggest thing that's going to be happening in the next 2 weeks is when you register. The 25th is specifically the opening day. Registration closes on August 1st. Now, if some of you are traveling, you're going to miss this registration window. We have heard from students that do have those circumstances. Registration will reopen again in August, um, particularly August 8th. They do a collection, they make sure all first year students have registered. We start harassing the students that didn't register to find out what's going on. And then we regroup, and then you can register or make adjustments to your schedule again starting August 8th. And then registration opens and stays open on that day right through September 11th. So that's another piece that I want to talk to you about because classes begin on August 28th. You will all have a schedule by then. But as you're starting your classes, and this happens a lot with transfer credits and AP credits, say for example, you take Calculus 1 and you have credit for Calculus 1, so you're enrolled in Calculus 2. If you're in that class on the first couple of days of classes and you're completely lost, you can always come back to us and say, hey, Karen, I thought I'd be good in Calc 2. I really just don't feel comfortable. What do I do? We can drop Calc 2 and re-enroll you into Calc 1. And that's something that we've done often. And the other way applies too. Say, for example, you have credit for Calc 1, but you're thinking you want to take it at RPI, which happens too. And you get into class and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so boring because I've done all of this already. If you want to advance to Calc 2, we can work with you to find a section of Calc 2 that fits with your schedule. So those things can happen as long as it happens before September 11th. That's when the books close and you're in those courses and you cannot add any additional courses. That's why it's called the add deadline. Now, drop deadline is not until October 20th, which means you can, in theory, drop courses up until then, but that's not really encouraged unless you connect with your hub advisor ahead of time to make sure that it's not going to disrupt your overall progress towards your degree. So those are the key dates we're focusing on moving forward. And we're going to open it up for questions. I saw that there was a lot happening there, but the biggest thing that we want to really focus your attention on is our hub website because all of our resources are there. Kelly is awesome about doing the website. She keeps it updated regularly. So if we get any information that might be pertinent to you, we usually put it in our WebEx chat and we also put it on our website. So just because you've been there once doesn't mean that you know everything you need to know. Check back often, bookmark that page. And then also, we have an SoE Hub YouTube channel, which again, Google is your friend in this instance if we don't have the link directly here. But that's where we house all of our recordings. So this recording, among everything else that we do program-wise, will be available on our YouTube channel. So I think that's it for me. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can address the questions in the chat and also bring up anything else that might be pertinent to those.
I was answering a bunch along the way. A lot of them were about transfer credit and dual credit. So I do recommend watching our transfer credit webinar that's posted on our website, or email soehub@rpi.edu.
Mhm.
But like Karen said, if you want to have the most accurate update of your transfer credit, if you have submitted them, take a look at your transcript under that student menu.
Yeah, and one thing I think we should do, Kelly, just because it doesn't show up on the recording, we're going to read some of these
Sure.
out loud just so everybody's aware of them. And keep putting questions in the chat if you have more too, because that's something that is really helpful as well. So if you want to read them and
Sure,
how you
I'll read them.
answered, okay,
So,
great.
one of the first ones we received was, how do you find if there's any other co-requisite courses for the fall, basing off of that physics mentoring course?
So, so basically, there aren't really any other classes that have co-requisites. Physics is a little bit of a different animal. And last year we didn't have the mentoring section, so there were students that heard we needed one and they were like, "Where's the mentoring section?" So this year we do have it. It's a zero credit class. It's very helpful though. Physics has it separate, chemistry it's built in, and same with calculus. So there's mentoring sections in the other courses, but they're built in. Physics is a little different just because you have to schedule it separately. Now, the only other class that really has a co-requisite, and I don't think it's really going to impact anyone in this registration, but it's biology. And biology is required to also register for the biology lab. So if anybody is registering for biology, a couple of students that might be advanced might find that they need a science elective. That can be something that would also have a co-requisite, but those really are the only ones.
Cool.
Okay. And then what else do you have there?
Uh, what's the first time slot for registration?
And you answered 8 a.m., and that is
Oh,
correct.
good.
Registration generally opens at 8. Now, just so you know, the schools do strive to kind of make it equitable for everyone during the registration period. This is the only time that time tickets are assigned at random. So, students that have accelerated credits will register earlier than students that don't because our algorithm is based off of the number of credits that you have. So future registrations will be based on that information. Also, other factors like if you're an ROTC student or if you're a student athlete, those students receive priority registration because they have specialized schedules that they need to make sure that they can get into. But generally, all registration time tickets start at 8. We try to release seats in the sections incrementally. So what that means is if you're registering at 8 and somebody else has a time ticket at 9 and there's no seats available, check back at 9:30, check back at 10, because seats are dropped periodically throughout the day. So if you're registering at 8:45 and everything's full, you might want to put it on pause and circle back in a few minutes because, like I said, we try to do that throughout the course of the registration window to make sure everybody has access to those seats.
And how do I request transcripts from not dual enrollment but from another college? And how does that get transferred to RPI?
So if you're it's the same process for dual enrollment or summer classes in general. You have to contact their registrar's office. So if you're taking it at Nassau Community College, you get in touch with Nassau Community College's registrar. You say, I need to order an official transcript. It needs to be official. Some people use third parties. Parchment is fine. As long as it's official and it's not coming from you, it can go directly to the registrar's website. It has their address and all the details listed on their website. Um, I misspoke. Their office. Send it to the registrar. And generally that's the process. So you have to order a transcript. It has to be official. It could be letter form and it could be electronic. Both are accepted.
And do we still have time to switch majors within the School of Engineering before registration?
The answer is yes. So the way that you would do that is through our admissions portal. It's basically where you accepted your RPI uh, acceptance here. There is an option to change your major. You could even leave the School of Engineering. We don't encourage it, but you can uh, to another major. And do that now. And the only reason I say that, if you are contemplating doing it, do it sooner than later, just so you're in the right major so we can advise you appropriately. Now, if you're on the fence about it, it's perfectly fine if you're considering other majors within the School of Engineering to sit where you are, because once you're in engineering, you pretty much have access to all the courses you need. But if you are considering switching out, you'd want to do that, making sure you have access to those major restricted courses too. Um, and you can change your major throughout the year. You use a paper form of a change of major option rather than going through the portal once classes begin. And you would generally just reach out to us and say, hey, I want to change my major, and we would talk to you about it.
I have another question.
Okay.
What if I'm undeclared? Is there any specific courses that I should be taking in the fall?
Yes, so undeclared have a little bit of a different situation, and I will share my screen. One thing that I didn't touch on specifically that I can at this point is um, we also use a major specific template in Excel. Now, that is also found on our SoE Hub website. So I want you to download the Excel sheets. But for this, I'm going to share my screen and show you what that looks like, because undeclared engineers have a little bit of a unique situation in the fact that they don't have a major template. So we kind of created one within the Excel sheet. So let me pull that up. Now, this is what it will look like when you download the Excel sheets. Along the bottom, we have all of these majors. So we have, this is the undeclared one. So basically I'll click on this and it's all color coded. There's a ton of details of information on here. As an undeclared student, you will be enrolled in Engineering 1700 automatically. I just got that confirmed, so we should be good with that. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to follow these courses here. So you could do an exploratory course, which is an orange one. So if you scroll back here, and you scroll up, these are all of our exploratory courses. Now it details whether it's offered in fall or spring. Engineering processes doesn't have that designation because it's offered all the time. So that's an option for you as well. So you're going to build your schedule based off of the details on here. And also, we really encourage you to connect with us if you have questions. Undeclared engineers often come with credits as well. So navigating all of those details, we'll ask you what majors you're potentially considering to kind of guide you towards other courses if you do have credits coming to RPI. But as I mentioned before, this Excel sheet is going to help you do your 4-year plan, which is a project that you and your advisor are going to work on throughout your first year. So basically, everything that's populated, let's go to civil, for example. So all the courses that would normally appear on your template also appear on this Excel sheet. But these things are fun because you can move them around. So what we do as advisors is we customize this template to make sure you have a 4-year plan that works for your goals, reflects your credits that you brought in, and if you have electives that you want to pick, we incorporate the timing of all of that into this template. Because after your first year, you're leaving the hub and you're going to move on to a major specific faculty advisor. And that faculty advisor is going to say, hey, Joe, I need your plan of study. This is what this will be. If you go to a meeting with a faculty advisor with a plan of study, they'll probably tell you not to come. So throughout our first year, we work on this plan. This plan is for you to keep until you graduate, and you modify it as needed, and we teach you how to do that. So that's kind of long term what we're working towards. That's why you're going to be downloading all these documents. Okay. Anything else?
The Excel sheet shows all of the major requirements for all majors. So if you want to do some shopping and take a look at all the different majors and what the requirements are, that Excel sheet is going to be the place to go.
One-stop shopping for sure.
Yeah, that's what we aim the hub to be.
Yeah. Okay. Question about getting into the WebEx chat. Uh, what we can do is I can message people individually. In the event that you can't get into the WebEx chat, I will take care of the one that actually asked the question because I'm familiar and I can access that. But email the SOE hub at rpi.edu and let us know that you're having difficulty. Sometimes we have to kind of poke it, and I don't know why that is, but what I'll do is I'll instant message the individual, inviting them specifically to the chat, which they should be able to access through that invitation. So anyone who has problems accessing the chat can do that way. And we'll do that right when I'm finished here. And how long does it take to have dual enrollment credits processed? Now that's a little bit of a lot of different things. I can't really estimate just because it depends on how many dual enrollment credits you're having evaluated and what schools are doing the evaluation. If you have humanities credits that you want reviewed, it has to be sent to somebody in humanities. If it's science or math, it's somebody in that department. If it's engineering, it comes to us. Everybody kind of, we are waiting on their response time. So usually within a week, we hope that it would be processed and everything would be done after the evaluations are finished. But the evaluations are what takes a little bit longer of a time just because they have to be reviewed to make sure they're rigorous enough because we do have a very rigorous program. As Kelly mentioned, there's a question here that says, is there a separate form for credits transferred from another college not through dual enrollment? Yes, it's our normal transfer credit approval form and the transcript. All of those are available on the registrar's website, but if you also view our webinar, we have all the details, like very specifically on how to fill it out and how to get it processed through the registrar's office. And look at that, you answered the question the way I would have anyway, so that's
Oh,
awesome.
good.
Talk about being on the same page. All right, so let's see if we have any other questions here. I think, was that everything you saw?
I think there's one more. They mentioned a 3+2 program.
Okay. Well, the 3+2 program is usually you coming into RPI after being a transfer student. Um, if the, are you talking about the Excel